All right, sister, out with it. Let's have it.
In the actual slides for today, I had a couple of suggestions already put up here in terms of ways to control fonts. And so we'll go ahead with the Quarto specification, which is to use a subcommand within the YAML portion of your script. And that subcommand is just simply called main font. And that's not necessarily something that I think people are going to want to use with regularity. But we should be able to specify different types of font to control what we see here in our viewer in terms of this very basic file. The Times New Roman we can try and see if our rendered document looks any different. It does. We can try the very common popular fonts, Arial. If you want to see what fonts you have available, there's a couple of packages. This fonts is one that I think might come installed with base R. I believe it's that basic. And so fonts files should actually find for us what we have on our system and what's available. And so for the most part, these documents should recognize these different fonts that you have. We can try, we can see if Comic works here. Okay, I'll show you a different way to do this. Now, you can actually find fonts that you want. You can purchase them, but you can find many of them as well online, just Google font. I'm gonna steal a bit of code that I think I found from Alice and Hill. That bit of code is using an API link straight from Google Docs. And what that does, so it's a little more consistent with this concept of reproducible research in that as long as someone has the CSS code, they don't need the font locally on their computer. They should be able to just hit a button and get the same document that we get, regardless of whether we have that font downloaded on our local computer or not. So I'm going to go googleapis.com CSS question family equals. And then again, this is kind of funky looking font, so I'm not sure this will actually work. I didn't try it, but we'll see if it works. Bungee. But we'll go ahead and we'll see if we can load this in. I'm going to have to save this CSS file as, and I want to save it in our live stream folder. I'm just going to save it as fonts. And then we can write a little CSS. So instead of in our line 6 here, instead of saying the main font is Bungee Spice, I'm just going to call up the CSS file and say, no, I'll just look for our CSS file, which is called fonts. And in that file, I'm going to write a little CSS. And so we'll just say the body of our document. We want our body of our document to, and then single quotes here, and then there's a semicolon at the end of this CSS, the way that it's structured. But we're just going to ask for Bungee Spice. Now, Bungee Spice isn't available locally, but Bungee Spice should be imported if this Google API URL import actually works. So again, controlling it through this separate, and that's the other reason to do. That's one of the other advantages, I guess, I think, of using a separate CSS file is just going ahead and saving the CSS file. It's auto updating the preview panel. We can do overlap, and so if we want to do and I'm just going to use my name, not because I'm an egomaniac. Just I tend to do that with little things like this because I know that I'm not overriding a default function. There's nothing called kulas. We can try a different one this time. Allerta. Let's try Allerta. We will, however, do another import here. Again, so it's fully reproducible. Anyone that wanted to run this could actually run it. And we'll have a second font read in from Google. Go ahead and save that. I'm not going to do anything right now because I haven't asked for this. But the way to ask for it is to use square brackets and curly brackets. So if I just square bracket around this whole thing, put a curly bracket after and say, give that the kulas specification that we have within the CSS file, it should actually, for that paragraph, it should actually use the font that we asked for here with that kulas command or override. And so we see it here. It looks like it came up like what we wanted to.